It all started with a single dining room back in 1950, and since then, St. Anthony's has grown to be an integral part of San Francisco's Tenderloin neighborhood. From healthcare to housing, everything in between, the nonprofit has provided a helping hand to the city's most vulnerable residents. And now sharing stories, lessons, and moments that shaped his years at St. Anthony's, their executive director, Barry Stinger, wrote For the Love of God, a book chronicling the organization's mission. Barry joins us in studio. Good to have you with us. Congratulations.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Truly a labor of love?
Yes, it was. I mean, I came to love this organization as I was working there as development director, then as executive director, and saw its work and was inspired, and that inspired me then to let this story be inspirational to others. So writing this book was part of that process.
What makes St. Anthony's so unique and unique to San Francisco?
What makes it unique, I think, is the conviction that this is God's work, and we're just tools and instruments in that. St. Francis, the Franciscans that founded St. Anthony's, said, "Make me an instrument of your peace," and this seeing what we can be as instruments of God working in the lives of others, especially the lives of the poor.
And how did your years there kind of shape the themes and the characters in the book itself?
Well, I came to see that as much
Before
as
you do that, I'm going to adjust your mic a little bit. Like that. Maybe that'll help. There we go.
So I came to see that St. Anthony's could be about meals served, it could be about a clinic helping people, but it really came down to the people and what their needs were. So any nonprofit has to be concerned about who they're serving and how they're going to continue to do that work, and therefore how do they bring in funds and things like that. You can get caught up in the institutional concerns of a nonprofit and forget about the people that you're serving. And St. Anthony's has always been able the personalism that it's committed to really keeping your eye on that person that you're serving.
Was there a moment in your, 7 years, I guess, as executive director that you had this epiphany about St. Anthony's, or about a volunteer, I guess, that really struck you that's part of the book?
Let's see, I guess that would be, here going monthly to the graduation ceremonies at our Father Alfred Center, I think was probably the moment where I really saw the impact that we had. And it was an ability to here that had been in rehab for months and months, and then overcame their addiction and were getting jobs and getting back out into the community, and hearing those people talk about, I mean, one guy put it, says, St. Anthony's loves you until you love yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the insights that was really important for me.
What lessons of compassion and dignity did you learn along the way?
I learned something. I was a philosophy major at USF.
Okay.
I learned something that I knew philosophically, but I learned it at St. Anthony's in a very real way, and that is that as much as we want to say we give these people dignity, what happens at St. Anthony's is we recognize the dignity that's inherent in these people as children of God.
We're all important.
Yeah, and that was key to what Father Alfred said at the beginning, because he said, we're not having any preaching, unlike the rescue missions of the 1940s and things like that, where you had to come and hear a sermon and then you got a meal. For Father Alfred, it was, you don't use a meal to bring people to God. You share a meal with people because you recognize they are children of God.
Right, right. What is the takeaway? What do you hope folks learn reading the book, and what did you learn writing the book?
What I learned and what I hope people take away from the book is that there's some really core values that are cooked into St. Anthony's. And those things have to continue to inspire that work. And they're being threatened. I mean, the dignity of the human person. Look at the way people are talking about the homeless these days. It used to be, they were a problem to be solved, and now they are the source of all of our problems. And so you lose that sense of the dignity. The fact that Father Alfred said we needed to depend on the providence of God to support this work, there's always temptations to be seeking money in all kinds of different ways that challenge our ability to respect the dignity of the poor. So,
Would you say that is the biggest misconception of a person that is in hard times or homeless these days? What would that be?
the misperception of the people.
What is the biggest misperception of folks that are homeless, that are trying to find their way?
Yeah, the biggest is it that, I mean, we hear it from the present administration. I mean, that they're the source of all the problems. They are the problem. Whereas, in fact, what we begin to see as we look at the lives of the poor and what they're experiencing is that that's our problem. Oftentimes, it's the problem of those who are benefiting from this social and economic system. And these are the people who are the refuse of that system. And so we have to really change the way we look at ourselves and we look at the way we organize our lives, organize our economies, so that these people aren't pushed to the margins.
Right. And I would imagine during these tough times, St. Anthony's is busy. They need a lot of help still, right?
They do. But again, one of the things I learned about St. Anthony's, reading this history, that unlike many nonprofits where it's all gloom and doom and oh my gosh, we're gonna close the doors tomorrow if you don't send us some help, St. Anthony's has always been generously supported by the people of San Francisco and the people of the Bay Area. And so once a year they write a letter and thank them for their support. That's the way it used to be.
Sure.
We do it a little different now, but I mean, that's that sense of generosity, the sense that God will provide, and it's dependent on the generosity of individual donors.
Were you surprised? You did a lot of work. It took 3 years to write the book. Anything that really surprised you doing a deep dive into their history?
What surprised me, I learned some things, that some stories from donors that were interesting. I learned that there was a meeting once back in the 70s when Bill Graham, the rock impresario, came to this meeting and learned about St. Anthony's. And he said, oh my gosh, I never heard of this before. He says, let's have a big rock concert out in Golden Gate Park.
Wow.
And I promise we'll raise $1 million for St. Anthony's. Father Alfred came in and said, no, we don't do that. We depend on the individual donors who to come forward and make their connection with the people.
I was just going to ask you who played. Back in the 60s and 70s, that would have been a heck of a concert.
Yeah, it would have been. But no, Alfred had that sense that he did not want to lose track of
the mission.
The mission, that it was people encountering other people.
All right. For the Love of God, it's available at Amazon. It just came out, right?
Yeah, just a couple of weeks ago.
And you got a book signing. Tell us about that. That's coming up.
That's coming up this Saturday at the Tenderloin Museum let's see, that's on Leavenworth and Ellis, I believe, down in the Tenderloin. And so, yeah, there'll be a time to talk a little bit about the book. I'll talk a little bit more, but a time for me to sign copies.
Very good.
You want to do that.
And that's from what, 3 to 4:30?
That's from 3 to 4:30.
On Saturday.
On Saturday.
All the best, Barry. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All the best to you and St. Anthony's.
Okay.